What's up guys, it's me, Emily G, back at you again with another commentary video. I mentioned before in my last few videos, but I am sitting down and we are filming some things in bulk because that's just the easiest way for me to get these out, especially while my neighbor is quiet. So I wanted to film a few and yeah, apologies rather for the fridge noises in the background. I can't help every noise. I did get a microphone for my cousin Mark the other day, and I was testing it out a little bit. Maybe it's because it's omnidirectional, but it really picks up everything in the room. So I've got to work with it a bit and figure that out. But it came with this little microphone cover, which almost kind of looks like a mouse if I hold it at the right angle. I'm not sure how to get this on, but I'm like, it's giving ASMR, isn't it? Boy, do we have a lot to discuss today. I think I'm actually the first person, at least by the time that I'm filming this, I have not seen anyone talk about this yet. I'm sure it'll get out there by the time I post it because I'm trying to post these in the order that I film it. But Kanye West is back at it again. And by back at it again, I mean he's saying stuff and he's in the public. He goes by Ye now. I'm not going to address him as Ye specifically because... And I have a big moral thing about calling people by preferred names. And I always like to call people by preferred names. I don't understand the whole Ye thing. I think it's confusing in this context because he's changed his name. Most of us know him as Kanye West. And when I say Ye, it sounds like I'm not saying someone's name. It sounds like I'm saying Yay! And we are not celebrating here. So I'm going to call him Kanye in this, I think. So forgive me. And that's the theme, apologies, right? Apologizing is the theme of today because Kanye West came out with an apology, and I'm gonna have to use my phone for this because I want to react to this. I read the first sentence and I promise, I swear on Jasper, I did not read the rest of it yet, but we're gonna react to it here today together. Kanye West came out with an apology via, I forget, and I'll look at what the picture says, but it was some sort of magazine that publicized it for him. It was a very long statement about him saying sorry for all of the anti-Semitic tangents and things that he has done within the past few years where he has clearly been spiraling downhill. And I don't want to attribute it to mental health because there are plenty of people out there who struggle with mental health and are not wildly anti-Semitic. To name a few, he had made a shirt line that had a certain symbolism on there that I can't say the name of because of YouTube terms of service. He had said a certain guy with a mustache was a great person, actually. He had said wildly horrible things, and all you have to do is simply Google it, and there are articles beyond articles and videos and everything that comes up. Somebody, I don't know what was going on in his life to make him say all this or feel all this, but those on his team were clearly not on his side because they were letting him go and say all this. And I know he's a grown adult man. He can make up his own mind and decide what he wants to do and what he wants to say publicly. But I just feel like, come on, if somebody in his life cared about him, you guys would have sat him down and said, Yay, Kanye, this is not what you want to be doing, you know, like, I don't know. It's a very unfortunate situation, and especially because, you know, he's got his ex-wife, I think it's Kim, and there's a daughter involved, and it's just a terrible thing to watch happen. And let's take a look at this apology that I've screenshotted here. Let's see, here it is. Okay, this is paid advertisement. This is on the Wall Street Journal, is I guess who had put this out. And it's an article, To Those I've Hurt by Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. I'm like, if you have to say formerly known as, the name is not catching on. It's like Twitter, right? So here we go. Let's take a look at this. 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. Oh dear God, I fear I know where this is going. I'm gonna make a prediction here because all I need is that first sentence. And I almost fear I'm gonna be spot on because I know people are gonna come for me in the comments and be like, Emily, you totally read this before. I really don't like reading. I like to write things, but I don't like reading. And so I have not read this whole big statement yet. And I'm not sure how I'll put it on screen because the font's rather tiny. I'll have to try to cut it up. But I fear we're going to blame everything on the car accident and his frontal lobe and, oh, he's immature, he hasn't developed. I don't care. Let's see what else. At the time, the focus was on the visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside my skull, went unnoticed. What does this have to do with an apology to the Jewish community and the public? I mean, okay, comprehensive scans were not done, neurological exams were limited, and the possibility of a frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. I'm trying to remember when all of this started. It feels like it's been decades, but I know it's only been a few years. So I'm not if before 2023 he started coming out with all of this horrible things he was saying about Jewish people, and I don't know. It's just, this is not an excuse, and I fear that we're in for a whole article about how it's not his fault. That medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. Great. Okay. Here we go. Let us not only drag down the entire Jewish community, but let us also insult those who have bipolar disorder. Because when you blame this on your mental health and a specific condition, you're making it harder for people with that specific condition to be taken seriously, be trusted with their own autonomy, insinuating that they can say terrible stuff. You just make it harder. Bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system, denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone else is overreacting. You think you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, when really you're losing your grip entirely. I would agree that it feels like Kanye has definitely lost his grip. But again, I can't speak for the entire community. And I don't have bipolar, have never been diagnosed with it, never looked into it. So I can't imagine what it's like to live with it. But, you know, I've struggled with mental health, as have most people my age. And I would have to argue that it should not be used as an excuse when you're saying these horrible, terrible things. I mean, maybe this is a step in the right direction in that he's addressing his behavior. I just feel like then say something so simple and quick and don't, I mean, we've only read excuses thus far. You know what I mean? Just own up to it a little bit. Once people label you as crazy, you feel like you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off, when in fact it's a very serious, debilitating disease that you can perish from. According to the World Health Organization and Cambridge University, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that's shortened by 10 to 15 years on average, and it's 2 to 3 times higher, and a 2 to 3 times higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. I'm not sure what that second half really means. We're writing an essay here, and I don't believe that he wrote this essay because, again, it's just from what we've seen of him in public. He's not in a well place, and I don't know that he can suddenly turn this around. Maybe he did write this. I should get him credit. A lot of people have ghostwriters, even for apology videos, crazily enough. Let's keep going. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1, diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all lethal and fatal if left untreated. The scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is when it tells you you don't need help. It makes you blind, but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, and unstoppable. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I agree with you there, Kanye. I think you have indeed lost sight of reality. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I love the most I treated the worst. You endured, maybe he's talking about Kim there. He and Kim had some sort of legal battle going on for a brief time. I don't know if it's still ongoing. But he had attempted to use, and he did use, his daughter, his minor daughter's name in a song either written or performed or produced by a child editor. And Kim had made sure to copyright the daughter's name, the daughter's full name, so it couldn't be used. And this was in some sort of either prenuptial agreement or, pre-child agreement where they said, hey, one of us is going to own the rights, because we can't both own the rights. One person's going to have to take the rights to our child's name until she becomes an adult, and that way we can just protect her from other people using it in nasty ways. Kim got the rights, and then Kanye spiraled and ended up using his kid's name. It was some big horrible thing. It was very nasty, very public with Kim. So maybe he's referring to Kim here and he's trying to apologize to her. I don't know. Some of the people I loved, I heard the most. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to love someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. In that fractured state, I gravitated towards the most destructive symbol I could find. The insert word for horrible imagery against the Jewish community. That symbol. And even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the difficult aspects of having bipolar type 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I cannot still recall, that led to my poor judgment and reckless behavior that oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regret okay, and here's a common theme that we see with celebrities who apologize for doing things, or anybody online that apologizes for doing things. YouTubers oftentimes will use this tactic in an apology, whether they mean to or not, is that I don't recognize this person. It was my detached self. That's not me anymore. That was you. You said those things. You did those things. Mental health, poor, good, not there. Regardless, that was you. It came from your brain. And I mean, I hate to put that on because we're using the mental health here as a reflective tactic. I'm trying to pick my words here carefully. You're weaponizing the bipolar disorder to say that wasn't you, but it was you. We watched Kanye West say and do these things. So when you're telling people now that wasn't who you really are, how are we to believe that? You can say the same thing about alcohol. When people drink, they do crazy stuff, but most people would agree that alcohol brings out who you really are. It's a lot of deflection and a lot of not owning what you have done. I regret and am deeply mortified by my actions in that state, and I'm committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a N-word or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. Very empty words from a person who has said and done all of these things again. And maybe, time will be the only thing that tells here, but I wonder what in his life has changed. Maybe there's something I'm missing. I don't know. Maybe we're finally being treated for this disorder that you've got. But I just have to wonder, what changed now, that you're coming out and apologizing, and I don't know. It's very interesting to me. Let's keep going because we're just over halfway there. To the Black community, which held me down through all of the highs and lows and darkest of times. The Black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I am so sorry to have let you down. I love us. And I can't speak to that as a white person. That apology is not for me to accept. I guess none of this is really for me to accept. I have Jewish family. I was raised half Jewish, but as an adult, I don't really identify with any particular religion. It's just not a core part of my daily life, I guess. And it's not me turning away from I'm just not a religious person, right? but I feel like I can't accept any of this because it's not meant for me. But at the same time, I would suggest that people wait and see the behavior until, because people apologize all the time, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it right then and there. We as a culture and society, we're changing a little bit, right? We're not 5 anymore arguing with their siblings where your parent goes, no, you say sorry and then you say sorry and let's move on, right? We can be upset at things for a while, and I think rightfully so. So I'd like to see some change first before we're accepting apologies here. In early 2025, I fell into a 4-month-long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. As the situation became increasingly unsustainable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore, which is very unfortunate, and I don't wish that upon anybody. It's wild to me that this was early 2025. I feel like it was much longer ago, and I feel like it lasted longer too, but 2025 has been such a wild year. I feel like it feels like so long ago, even though it's been less than 2 years now. We're in January of 2026. This would have been a year ago, right? Early 2025. It just feels like it's been so much longer. Maybe I have the dates wrong, or I'm mixing things up. I don't know. Having bipolar disorder is not a state of constant mental illness. When you go into a manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you're not in a dark episode, you're completely normal, quotes. And that's when the wreckage from the illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged me to finally get help. So this is not Kim, because they are divorced, I believe. Maybe he's talking about, I think her name is Bianca. I didn't know he was married. I thought they were in a relationship. I'm mixed up. I really don't keep up with like Hollywood celebrities. I'm more interested in what's going on YouTube, because that's the platform I'm on. And I think it's a little more easily digestible. It's more of the real world to me. But that aside, I'm guessing he's talking about Bianca, which, if this is true, Bianca, good for you. But I also hope specifically to her, or to whoever his current wife is, sometimes you can't change people, and it doesn't have to be your job. You know what I mean? So just, I don't know. Don't surround yourself with people you feel unsafe with at the same time. I found comfort in Reddit forums, of all places. We're on a great track here, Kanye. Different people speaking of being in manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I would also recommend professional help, such as a therapist. Reddit can be a nice place for a community for some people, but when things aren't treated correctly, you can definitely damage the person further, right? I read their stories and realized that I was not alone. It's not just me who runs their entire life once a year despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called best doctors in the world that I am not bipolar, but merely experiencing symptoms of autism. Okay, so now we're getting into autism. So I think he said he finally did get the diagnosis of bipolar 1. But I guess he's talking about his experience with being misdiagnosed, or not diagnosed at all, which is a terrible thing. And that's why I always recommend getting multiple opinions if you can. I know that's easier said than for some people, right? Kanye is a wealthier man with a lot of more time and money than most of us. And so I would have hoped that he would have sought out these diagnoses and treatment sooner and get what you need to get done, because you can. You know what I mean? For some people out there, it's much harder to do that. But I have empathy for people who are misdiagnosed. I do get that. My problem lies with how long this went on, how people around him didn't tell him what was going on, or how they did, how it's at the end of the day, it wasn't their job either. You know what I mean? But it's just such an unfortunate situation, and it's not an apology for me to accept. As I find my new baseline and my new center through an effective regime of medication, therapy, exercise, and clean living, that's great, I have newfound much needed clarity. I am pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, music, clothing, design, and other new ideas to help the world. That is wonderful. And I really strongly hope that this new treatment that he's on goes perfectly fine. I don't, again, have any personal stake into Kanye West. I never listened to his music. I never bought his clothes, right? Like, again, I'm not a fan of most people in the sense that, like, I would purchase something or spend my time on their projects. I've got a lot going on here at home, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know. It's just, I don't have much personal stake in this person. And so, I'm curious to see what other people feel like who were or are big fans of him. I know my one friend, you know, was always a big fan of his music and went the whole route of separate the art from the artist once Kanye started spiraling. And that's a whole nuanced conversation in itself. But I don't know, let me know down below, like, were you a big fan of Kanye, or are you like me and you don't really have any personally invested emotions in this? I don't know. We get to the end here. I'm not asking for personal sympathy or a free pass, though I aspire to earn your forgiveness. I write today simply to ask for your patience and understanding as I find my way home. With love, yay. But I can't read that. It looks like A. I mean, what a beautiful message. I hope that it ends up going well. I think a public statement was needed, right? Because had this not come out and I have not heard of it, I probably would have just assumed he'd be still going on his tangents, right? Like, I don't keep up with a lot of people, and I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. So I think a statement is helpful. It's one of the better apologies we've heard from people, as far as at least YouTube goes, right? Which I do think a written apology can be more helpful than, say, a video apology. I'm curious to know if, like, he was the one who sat down and wrote that, or if he had help writing it. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? The statement's out there. But it is an interesting topic to discuss. And again, me not particularly identifying strongly, at least with Jewish community, and I'm not a person of color, and I'm not like a big Kanye fan or ever was. Like, it's not really an apology for me, but I wanted to talk about it because no one was talking about it. And I do think it's an important message to discuss, which is, I guess, you know, should people be apologizing? Would you have done this in this instance, right? And I know a lot of us out there can say, well, you wouldn't have found me in this instance to begin with. I would not be going and attacking a religious community and doing all these crazy things that he did, and, you know, spiraling. And easier said than done, right? Like, mental illness is very tricky, and I'm glad he's getting help. I'm sorry this went on so long, and I'll be curious to see what else happens, and, you know, hopefully there's no relapsing or anything. So I just thought it was very interesting. I wanted to talk about it and get a conversation going. Sorry I don't have, like, crazy hot takes or anything wild to add. I don't like how much of the apology was put onto mental health. I feel like there was definitely a lot of, none of this was me, it was all because of mental health. That had to have come from somewhere. I mean, he did mention with the anti-Semitic imagery that he chose that because it was the most hateful, horrible thing he could think of, and he just was angry and went to such a dark place. And okay, like, that is not great, but I guess that's what I want to hear, in the sense that you made this decision. I want to hear you say that you chose to do these things, not that none of it was me, it was all my mental health. And so it's a step in the right direction. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, you know, we continue to get better, and I'm curious to see what else happens too with the Bianca person. I guess that's his wife, or at least the last time I had checked up on this situation, he was walking around with Bianca and she was, like, really not clothed at all. I wonder if any of that will change now that he is starting to get some treatment and things, because that was also a very nuanced and concerning situation going on with her. So, and again, she's an individual with her own autonomy. Let's have a discussion about that a different day, though. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you think the apology was good or not, or if you were a fan, or what are your feelings now. And yeah, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, and I'm really enjoying growing this channel. So welcome to the fam. All right, I will see you on the next one.